Dalton here from the YouTube channel Pole Barn Garage. I just wanted to make a little video kind of showing you how to get your feet wet if you want to start a YouTube channel, and you know, some of the downsides to it too. Let's get started with some of the basics. So if you're like me, you've been watching YouTube for a while, and you know, you see these guys doing stuff, or like me doing stuff like the Silver Dollar and the Holy Goat and stuff, and you go, hey, I can do that. Well, the odds are you probably can. It's not that hard. There are a few things to note. Let's start with some basic videography, such as, you know, maybe not filming when it's super humid and the camera lens is really foggy. But whatever, it's a little less foggy out here for some reason. This video is pretty much only going to relate to working on cars and doing car things on YouTube, because, well, that's really all I know. But I can definitely lend a little bit of advice, I think. Now, first things first, your camera doesn't matter as much as you think it does. Now, that's not to say it doesn't matter, because your video quality certainly is important. But you don't need anything fancy. If you can spring for a simple GoPro or action camera like that, you can get away with that for a long time. I did. Then maybe move up later. You can even, nowadays, phones are so good. I've done videos on this channel right off of my phone, and they turn out pretty good. However, if it is your phone and you're like me, you know, you don't want to be breaking that thing, right? So, you know, that's something to consider. But you don't need to be springing $1,000 on a nice camera, is basically what I'm saying. Lighting is likely your most important thing. You need people to be able to see you and see the things you're doing. So it's important to have light that floods. Make sure your area is flooded. That's a big deal. Second to that would be audio. It don't got to be TV quality, but you got to be able to hear it. So I have a little shotgun mic. I've had this thing forever. It was like $20 on Amazon. It's not a name brand one. It's a Busa or something, and it works just fine. And I would definitely recommend you do that, especially one with the little rabbit tail. Here, let me show you. And this filters out wind noise and stuff like that. So the next thing you're going to need is editing software. I use Filmora on PC. You can edit with your phone, although I don't necessarily recommend it. It's very difficult, and it's going to be hard for you. Definitely would recommend getting a good editing software for your PC, whether that be Adobe or Filmora or iMovie or anything like that. They are going to cost you a little bit. There are some free ones out there. You can try them. But just understand, you're probably not going to get everything you want. It doesn't take that much to make a car YouTube video. You don't need, if you have Adobe Premiere, you're going to use like 2% of that program, right? So just keep that in mind. Now that we're out of the technical side of things, how about we get into the personality side of things? And this is where it really matters. You need to be able to draw people in and keep them. So what you're going to have to do is you have to open up. And you're going to have to talk, and you're going to have to, you don't have to be funny, you don't even have to be knowledgeable, you don't have to be anything, but you've got to be engaging. And that's the most important thing. You got to keep people engaged and keep people wanting to come back for more, you know, because it's one thing if you're working on something cool, but it's another thing if you can get people hooked. Here's probably the most important part, and it's something I see people mess up a lot. And I mean, not just one or two, probably every one of them, myself included, my first videos, talk too much. Nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares who you are, okay, on the internet. Remember that. That's probably the best piece of advice I can give you. Nobody knows who you are, and nobody cares. And what you need to do is make them care. And I'm not saying don't talk, but what I am saying is if your video starts off like this, and you're just talking like this, and it goes on for more than 30 seconds, you're going to lose everybody that clicked on it. And that's your most important thing, is you have about 7 seconds to get someone to click on your video. So then you have 7 seconds to describe, this is me, this is my project that I'm doing, or whatever. You know, it doesn't, whatever it is, this is me, here's what we're doing, let's get started. Boom, boom, boom. Now later on you can talk a little bit more. You know, once people know who you are, then of course they're going to care. But at first, not so much. And you should always be pursuing new people. One other thing to note with filmography is keep a moving frame behind you. People have roughly the attention span of a goldfish these days. and you have to keep their eyes engaged and moving. TV has known that forever. I can't just stand here, right? The frame is stagnant. You're going to lose interest. But if I'm moving around and there's stuff going on, otherwise, typically I'm not just standing here talking, but, if I'm setting up a tripod and I'm working on the window of the Ranchero, well, maybe I'll get one shot from this side. I'll do a little bit, then I'll move around to the other side. I'll do a little bit, and keep that frame moving. Keep the eyeball moving. Cut your frames up really, harsh. Jump cuts are not a bad thing. It keeps people's eyes moving and engaged. It's not pro, but it works. So you just made a video, and you put it on there, and it gets no views. Well, don't get discouraged, because that's how it happens for everybody. Really, until you get 300, 400, 500 subscribers, it's going to be really hard to get traction. That's maybe the hardest part, is just getting a foothold. Now, once you got that foothold, you got to build from it. But if you can just get a little grasp in there, you know what I mean? And then you'll be able to climb your way up. Those first 300, 400, 500, it might take 6 months. It might take a year. Just keep at it. Persistence is key. YouTube's algorithm likes to see consistency. It likes to see posting. It doesn't mean post crap, though. Every bit of content you put out needs to be the best content that you can make. And you don't want to be posting crap just for the sake of posting stuff. You need to be posting good, solid content. Once you get some subscribers, you're going to want to kind of step up your game if you can do it. And make sure you're posting weekly. Try to look for something big. Try to find your holy goat, your Independent Chevelle, your Junkyard Digs Le Mans, something like that. Try to find something notable. And that's going to give you a huge boost. It's going to give you more of a boost than any shout out or tag or anything like that is ever going to do. How does the algorithm work? Well, let me show you the best way I understand. Here's basically how I understand the algorithm to work. What you got here, let's say this is your channel. This is your channel A. So let's say on your channel you have a 1970 Buick Skylark, okay? So in your title it says 1970 Buick Skylark, will it run? Whatever, you've seen it a million times on YouTube. In your description of your video, it is key to put, I have a 1970 Buick Skylark with a 350 and a turbo 350, and will it run and drive? Blah, 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 blah. Be as specific as humanly possible in the description of your video. That's going to tell YouTube, my video is about that. Now, let's say you get some clicks. All these dots kind of represent clicks. So let's say you get some clicks. Now, who's clicking on your video? Is it just generally everybody? No, it's not, because Google knows everything about you. And the thing is, if you've ever looked for a 1970 Buick Skylark on Google or any information about it, it knows, hey, that guy might be into a 1970 Buick Skylark. How about next time he signs into YouTube, we're going to put it on his homepage. Blah. There you go. Now let's say a whole bunch of people click on it. Everybody who has a 1970 Buick Skylark clicks. Alright, so YouTube's algorithm is going to expand that reach out to here. To everybody who's ever been interested in a 1970 Buick, specifically, but a little more general. And these are kind of generalities in themselves, so just take it with a grain of salt. But let's say you get some clicks. Now you'll notice your density is less. There's still a lot, but it's less than here. And that's because it's a less specific audience. So moving out from here, this is still enough for YouTube to say, okay, well, let's try suggesting it to specific car repair people. And this is kind of my terminology, but let's consider them as like people who are into the technical side of things, people who dig the engines, who dig specific car history and information and stuff like that. They're not really, just there for entertainment. They're kind of there for education, right? You're going to get some of those people, because not every one of these people is into 1970 Buicks or 1970 Buick Skylarks, but, they're still interested in cars in general, and they're interested in possibly the specific work you're doing here. This worked. Let's say that the algorithm says, okay, well, about whatever, 10% of people here clicked on it. Let's move them out to general automotive, which is more, I like cars, but I'm really here for the entertainment. And this is an even broader range of people out here. So you're going to have a harder time. It might get someone here, it might get someone here, it might get someone here. But you're not going to get everybody here, most likely, until you have, a hell of a base subscriber count. So let's say you got some clicks here, but not too many, and YouTube says, okay, well, they weren't terribly interested. We're going to stop pushing that video. But you got these people, these people, these people. Your videos will now be pushed to these people, these people, these people more. That's basically how I understand the algorithm to work. It doesn't just pick people at random. It knows what you want, it knows who you are, and it knows what you're interested in. Now, don't be shocked or sad when that doesn't happen right away. But if you keep at it and your content is good, it will happen. I started a YouTube channel 2 years ago, and I can tell you, I haven't had a lot of sleep since. It is a ton of work, especially when you're trying to maintain a regular job. It's not easy at all. So do it at your own risk. But really, at the end of the day, there is no secret to doing well on YouTube, to getting subscribers. The amount of shout outs or whatever, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is making good content. And you need to be making the most interesting content you possibly can, well, regardless of whatever you're into. One last thing to note. I mentioned the description there. Your description is very, very important to have those keywords, especially early on, because YouTube doesn't know who you are, and the people who might even look at your video don't know who you are. So you've got to tell YouTube who you are so that YouTube can tell them who you are, if that makes sense. And then your title needs to be succinct and informative at the same time, if that makes sense. And it needs to be eye-catching, don't use all caps, nobody pays attention to that, but maybe like one word, all caps, like amazing, blah blah blah, Buick Skylark, or, and using the typical key phrases like will it run, or will it drive, or, abandoned, forgotten, lost, that kind of stuff. That works. I would try that. Everything else is just a matter of getting out and doing it. And if you're interested in doing this stuff, I would recommend you try. But I will say, it's a lot of work. And it's not for the faint of heart. And I still have a full-time job and everything. You're not gonna get rich quick off of YouTube. It's not gonna happen. Just keep that in mind. It's not impossible. I did it. I didn't know anything about computers or anything. I never even owned a computer, actually, until I started a YouTube channel. I bought a cheap laptop at Best Buy and for $350, and it barely ran the editing software, but it worked good enough. I can tell you one thing about YouTube is that I've met a lot of great people. I've made some really good friends. I've gotten some cool sponsors, products, and stuff like that. And I've been able to build more cars than maybe I would have normally been able to. I don't have the Scrooge McDuck gold bank vault yet, unfortunately. In fact, I don't even have a roof that is watertight. But maybe one day. If you guys want to see more specific stuff, like on filming or making thumbnails or editing video, even, I can do that. If you would like to see that, if there's enough interest, I'll do that just to try to help people get into it, because I think a lot of the other YouTubers kind of treat this stuff like it's a trade secret or something, and it's not, okay? I mean, there ain't no slices of the pie here. The pie is nearly infinite, and there's no reason, we shouldn't be trying to help people get into it as well. So, the more the merrier, I say. We will see you guys next time, and hopefully this shed a little bit of light and helped you out or inspired you to start it or scared you away from doing it. Either way, I did my job.